I'm Anna Shoub, and I am the owner of the Hat Junkie in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. I make hats out of a room in my home, which is my studio. And today's video is a little bit of a different topic. I got a question on my Facebook page last week, and when I posted one of my new caps, little patchwork caps, and the woman asked, why does it cost so much? And I know that I probably, in the world of manners, should not be addressing that question even. But you know, it is actually something that as a self-employed craftsperson, I have to think about constantly. It takes up quite a bit of my brain space, and I'd like to share some thoughts with you about why does it cost so much. So the first answer is teeth. Oh my God. I think a lot of self-employed people, particularly people in the arts, crafts people, will understand that everything can be all hunky-dory and then something happens with your teeth. You need a root canal, or right now my son needs braces. There's $7,000. He also needs his wisdom teeth taken out. My husband just had an implant, and sometimes I literally live in fear of something happening to our teeth because as much as we try to get ahead, those little bills can just take you back and you just feel like you can't get out of debt. And I think it's my age. Those little grunty noises are my dog. I think it's my age where suddenly I'm just thinking, why should I be living like this? Why is it expected that craftspeople, artists, musicians, that this is a given, that because you're doing something in the arts related field, you should live like this, where you're just stressed all the time about money. So those thoughts have been in my head. So yeah, one is just all those unexpected things that come up. Two is, you know, there are different business models out there in the world. One, you might have a beautiful hat design and then you take it overseas to China or you know, somewhere else where the wages are very low, and you have that produced en masse and shipped back and sell it. And so those prices, I mean, that's what you're seeing in a department store, you know, a big box store like Walmart. You're basically seeing there's invisible craftspeople, because they really are still making it with their hands, but they're getting paid some, you know, ridiculously low wage, and then it just gets inflated and inflated. And I think a lot of people know this, but that's not my business model. The other business model, which is done locally and is a very respectable model, is that you have a small factory, a local factory, and you pay your employees even, let's say, $12, $15 an hour, and so, you know, things are being done assembly line, and your wages are lower than what you need to make if you were making the item yourself, and you profit that way. Of course, you have to produce quite a bit to make that model work for you. For me personally, I have had people working for me. For me personally, I came to the conclusion that the model that I get the most joy out of is just making it all myself. It means that I make small runs of things. It means I have way less waste than you would produce in a factory. It means that I have complete quality control. But it also means that there's nobody to deflect those costs of, you know, I can't say I'm going to pay this person $15 an hour and profit on top of their work. It's just my hands. This is it, all I got. There is another model, and it's sort of an invisible model, but a very real one, and I don't want to call it wrong because it's connected to a lot of other cultures. And I even see it here in Nova Scotia quite a bit, and that's where you have invisible parent labor, where, you know, somebody's mom comes in and helps them, and, you know, they don't charge them. It's just anything. I would do it for my son. So, you know, those are sometimes we don't see the true cost of the labor because, you know, mom cut for me for a day, or you know, mom did all this sewing, and you know, sometimes in other cultures it's just expected that you pool all your resources as a family, but that's not my model. My model is me, me alone, me, myself, and I. So that means that when I produce things, I aim to produce things where I can actually earn my cost of living. Now, to be honest, regardless of how expensive you think my hats might be, and I want to say that my customers are actually wonderful, and it's not like I'm asked this question a lot. Most of the time, people are just supportive and say wonderful things to me, and so it's not a defense against my customers or anybody else. It's really wanting the general public to understand the thoughts of somebody who's producing things with their hands, and how you make a living. So for me, I have to look about how much can I produce in a day, and what does it actually cost me to live. Now, I'm not really a mathematical person, and I'm not even particularly good at it, and I have a friend that said craftspeople lie to themselves all the time, and it's true. Because, for example, well, the original version of this little cap, which wasn't patchwork, so a little less work, you know, I made it last year and I charged 160 Canadian. Now that might seem astronomical for a little cap, but you know, I did the math. I timed myself making a couple, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a day's work. Now, if an entire day's work, all I can charge you is $160, and you take out of that taxes and, you know, try to pay for dental care, I'm really making about $15 an hour. And as a 53-year-old woman who has been making hats for 30 years, I don't want to make $15 an hour. I can't meet my expenses that way, and my expenses are low compared to, you know, a lot of the country. So I have to reassess it, and I constantly have to say in my head, what is, you know, what is really expensive? What is this definition of expensive? So yeah, so going back to that thought about, so if a hat takes me 5 hours to make, the formula for charging for what I make is not how much I need to make divided by those 5 hours, because lately I have been timing myself, and I seem to max out at being able to actually sew or felt or whatever for 4 hours a day, because, I mean, some days are different, some days are less, but because there is so much other work that goes into running a business. And if all I charge you for is the time that I take to make this hat, then I'm in the poorhouse. Because if I stand at the farmer's market for a day, if I load up the farmer's market the day before, if somebody comes into my studio and I'm helping them for an hour, if I'm answering emails, that takes an hour, if I am promoting myself, if I'm designing, working on my website, all those things are part of it, except that I can't charge you for working on my website. I can only charge you for this hat. So it might seem like a lot, but it's factoring in all those various things I have to do. So yeah, shipping, communication, promotion, sales. I just wrote some notes of things. Clean up, something I'm very bad at, but you got to do it. And even like fabric preparation. So if I am cutting and sewing a hat like this, what you're not seeing is that I'm using upcycled denim because I'm very interested in keeping fabric out of landfill, but I have to scour that fabric. So, you know, that all takes a long time. In a hat, in my organic jersey, hats and headbands, I'm hand dyeing this fabric. So before I even get to that, there's so much work. The other thing is taxes, and this always takes me by surprise, but sometimes I feel like I spend the entire year trying to keep up with my taxes, whether that is my income tax or my property tax. There's a whole other rant here, but I, unlike most people that work from home in Nova Scotia, pay $700 a year to the town of Lunenburg in order to have the right to work out of my home. Now, I know most people don't, but if you ever put up a sign or let anybody know that you're there, that's what happens. So there's, you know, $700 a year over 10 years. That's $7,000. So, yeah, like those taxes are coming out of the item that I produce too. And I'm happy to pay taxes, not that one, but my income taxes. You know, I'm contributing to society. I'm helping, you know, the hospitals and everything else. So it's just that people need to understand that craftspeople do pay those things. So the item you are seeing is not the item, it's not the amount that we're actually getting out of this. Yeah, so lastly, the question that I have written here is, does that mean that my items are elitist or only for the wealthy? And I guess it's debatable. I think for so long I've actually tried to keep my prices lower than they should be, because as somebody that's never really had money and always lived on the edge, I know there's people way, way worse off than me. You know, I am a very privileged person, but, you know, I struggle with paying bills. It's just the life I've chosen. And so I've always been very sensitive to whether this is affordable to regular people. I don't want to cut out. I've never been somebody that feels compelled to only be the hat maker for the rich and famous. Like I love my regular working people, you know, whatever they do in this world. So I guess the answer to that is, I don't think my hats are only for the wealthy. I think, you know, if you are on welfare, you probably can't afford any of my hats. But I think for a lot of people, you just, if you want something, you put the money away if you care about it. And we are so conditioned to seeing costs that actually they're not real. The costs are, they're deflated. I mean, what we're seeing is, I like to say that cheap is always expensive somewhere. So if you are picking up a hat at a department store and you think, wow, what a bargain. Well, you know, it wasn't a bargain for the woman in Bangladesh who made that hat. And it's not a bargain for the amount of textile waste that has to go into the environment because of the volume, the extra volume of textiles of accessories or clothing that had to be made in order to keep that price down, because you have to overproduce in order to keep prices down. So a lot of it just completely ends up in our waste cycle. You know, I think, you know, what do we spend money? We choose what we spend money on. I don't think it's necessary to, I love my ladies that buy multiple hats for me, but you don't have to, you know, you don't have to buy any hats. But if you really want one of my hats, then you just save up. That's what I do. I support other craftspeople. If I just really want something, I I do it because I want it, and you know, it's just I buy less, or I make things because I can. So I guess I'm trying to say, no, I really don't think it's expensive. I think that the problem is that other things are too cheap. And, you know, and if I can't ever fault anybody else for charging what they charge. I can't control it. I have been there. I've been a young person too, undercharging, and I had a friend who is an amazing textile artist in British Columbia, and this was 30 years ago, and she scolded me. She said, you have to stop charging that amount. For me, I thought at that time that $8 an hour was like wonderful because I didn't have to work in a restaurant. I could just do what I love to do. So, you know, but what I didn't realize is that I was undercutting this other hat maker who, you know, who was at a different stage in life. So I'm not actually scolding those people. I'm saying, think about it, or think about that cost you might see if somebody who is retired and whose partner makes you know, a great living and just doesn't need the money, chooses to sell what they make for $20 or $25, even though it took them 15 hours to make. That doesn't mean that's the real price. So, you know, grab it, pay for it, but they have chosen to basically give you their work. And as much as I would like to control it and tell those people that you're making it harder for somebody that actually needs the money to earn the money, I know I can't. I can't change anybody else. I can only do what I can do. So I think that's it in a nutshell. I think overall, I just want people to understand that I'm not just charging for the hat. It's that we need to start seeing the cost of things in a real way, and we need to accept that, yeah, crafts people, musicians, designers, other kinds of artists also have a right to teeth. I have a right to my teeth, and that means that this might seem very expensive to you, but it's not. All right, thank you. I'll get off my soapbox now. Bye.